Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about wrapper classes in Java, a really important concept that bridges the gap between primitive data types and objects. We know that Java is an object-oriented programming language, right? But Java also has primitive data types, int, double, char, boolean, and so on, right? Now here is an interesting fact. Java is sometimes called 99.9% object-oriented because of these primitive types. Primitives are not objects, they are just simple values. So Java kept primitives for one important reason, and it is performance. Working with simple primitive values is much faster than working with full objects. But here is the problem. Certain features in Java only work with objects, not with primitives. The most important example is the collections framework, like array list. If you want to store integers in an array list, you cannot use the primitive int directly. You need an object version of int or integer. This is exactly where wrapper classes come in. A wrapper class simply wraps a primitive value inside an object, giving it all the benefits of being an object while still holding a primitive values. Every primitive data type in Java has a corresponding wrapper class. For example, Byte primitive data type has a wrapper class Byte. Short has short. Long has long. Float has float. Char has character, and int has integer, and so on. Notice that most wrapper class names are just the capitalized version of the primitive, except for int, which is integer, and char, which is character, which have slightly different names. Now let's talk about how to convert between primitives and wrapper classes or wrapper objects. The first one is boxing. Boxing refers to converting primitive to wrapper object. So boxing means converting primitive to wrapper object. Boxing is the manual process of converting a primitive value into its wrapper class object. The old way, which is now deprecated and no longer recommended, is like this. For example, int num equal 8. If you want to write its object 1, integer num1 equal new integer 8 semicolon. But the correct modern way is like this. Integer num2 equal integer dot value of 8. So both create an integer object wrapping the value 8, but the second approach is the preferred modern syntax. Unboxing. Let's talk about unboxing. Unboxing refers to converting wrapper object to primitive. Vice versa. Unboxing is the manual process of converting a wrapper object back to its primitive value. For example, int num3 equal num2 dot int value semicolon. So this is unboxing. The int value This method extracts the primitive int value from the integer object. Each wrapper class has its own extraction method. For example, we have int value. As you can see, int value method. We also have double value method. And we have also float value method, and so on. So now here is something really convenient. Java can do these conversions automatically for us. Autoboxing, we did it manually. Now we have the concept autoboxing, which refers to automatic primitive to wrapper objects. For example, int num4 equal 5. You can just write integer num6, for example, equal 5. Autoboxing, Java wraps 5 in an integer object automatically. Java says that you are assigning a primitive integer to an integer variable and automatically boxes it for you. And auto-unboxing automatically wrapper object convert to primitive, like int num7 equal num6 semicolon. Auto-unboxing Java automatically converts integers to int. Java says that you are assigning an integer object to a primitive int variable and automatically unboxes it for you. So wrapper classes are not just for converting between primitive and objects. They also come with really useful utility methods. For example, the method which is parse int. And this method converts string to integer. Isn't it interesting? So this method is one of the most commonly used methods in Java. When you receive a number as a string, for example, from a user input, you need to convert it to an integer or int before doing math with it. So for example, if you have a string str equal 25 and you wanted to convert it int num equal integer dot parse int, and then we add the name of our variable and semicolon. Now let's print the value. For example, now you can write num plus 10. Let's run the program. You have 35, right? So we did parse and you cannot do math with this value. It is impossible because it is a string, not a number, and parse int converts it to a proper integer. And we also have toString method, toString method. This one converts a number to string. For example, we have a string strt equal integer dot toString. And the number is 25. Now let's run the print the value of strt. Run the program. Yes. This converts the integer 25 into the string. So it is useful when you want or you need to display numbers as text or concatenate them in a specific ways. And that is the wrapper classes in Java. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.